biblical perspective, the Washington Stand, and my daily devotional Stand on the Word. All of that, plus a lot more, is on the Stand Firm app. So go to the App Store and get the Stand Firm app. Okay, a Friday night shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security looks all but certain, as Senate Democrats and the White House appear to be locked in a standoff, according to the latest reports. Joining me now to talk about this and more is Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, who serves on several Senate committees, including the Armed Services Committee. Coach, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
Thank you, Tony. Glad to be here. Welcome to the Clown Show.
Well, I was going to say, is it still halftime, or did we get something worked out?
Oh, no. You don't get anything worked out up here. The Democrats are bound and determined to blame everything on us. And we've got the House majority, we got the majority in the Senate, we got the White House, and we're worried about this. This is the Democrats' fault, folks. It is not Republicans. We are voting to open up the government. And again, this is FEMA, this is TSA, and it's the Homeland Security. And these people, Democrats, they hate authority and they hate law enforcement. So let's blame it on them. It's their fault. Let's run them out of the country. They don't want to protect our men and women in blue, and go on with it.
I bet there's a lot of times you'd like to throw a flag, wouldn't you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you can't make this up. Everybody's worried about getting reelected and this or that. And, it polls this way, polls that. How about we poll it for America? How about we worry about what's going on in our country and save this country before the crazies on the left run us in the ground? And we're as much at fault because we won't fight back. Let's do away with the filibuster. We can do it all. We can start next Monday or whenever we're back in session, and we can just hit one bill after the other with 51 votes. But we won't do that because, oh my goodness, it's the tradition of the Senate. Hey, how about tradition of the United States of America for 250 years? And if we continue this tradition nonsense, it's going to be over with for America. The crazies will take over.
So Congress is scheduled to be out next week. So if there's not an agreement reached, and I mean, it's Wednesday, and it takes a little time to get something done, Congress is out next week, and there's a lot of folks doing, travel abroad. I mean, there's not a whole lot of buffer left in the TSA budget and FEMA budget because it was all used up in the last shutdown. What happens with TSA?
Well, they've got enough money to fund them for a while, but they all know that up here. So it's really not going to affect. If they would shut down the airports immediately at midnight on Friday, whenever the deadline is, I mean, you'd have people up here scrambling. But you're right. You just said people are traveling abroad. We're not scheduled to be in session next week. So you got 4, 5, 6, 737s with United States of America. They're dressed in blue and white. They're getting ready to take off as soon as they can, with House members from both sides, senators from both sides, going to Munich, Germany, to the Globalist Security Conference. I've been to it a couple of times. It's a disaster. Those people over there, they're so woke they can't walk straight. And what's happening is, they just want to get out of town. Hey, let's close the government down, but when we close it down, let's shut the airports down and see how long they last.
Yeah. Just let me get home first, okay? Let me get home first. We just got about a minute and a half, two and a half minutes left. Yesterday, your colleagues in the House held a hearing on why political Islam and Sharia law are incompatible with the U.S. Constitution. You actually have 2 pieces of legislation in the Senate to ban Sharia law. Tell us why this issue deserves attention now.
It's one of the number one things going on. The first thing we got to do, by the way, is we got to change the voting bill. We've got to get voter ID. If we don't do that, it's not going to make any difference because they're going to cheat us out of all kind of seats this coming November because they can't stand them not being in power. But the Muslim community has come to this country, the third world group that they don't want to assimilate. They want Sharia law. They want to read the Quran. They want to go by the Quran, and it doesn't work in our country. And folks, we are not changing for a third world group of people coming here that it's not a religion, it's a cult. And they are coming and taking over very, very quickly. brought all those people and put them in Minneapolis that cheated the heck out of this country out of $20 billion. And then Joe Biden, or somebody, I think it was Obama behind the scenes, he handled all that the debacle in Afghanistan. And then they brought another 100 to 150,000 of them in here. They can't read and write, and they're not going to assimilate. They're going to take this country over. But under my dead body, they're going to do it. I'm telling you, we are going to fight back. Chip Roy, all the caucus, we are going to fight these people and keep this country a Christian country. And Jesus went in the temple now, and he ran them all out, all these tax collectors, and we're going to do the same thing because Jesus would fight when he knew time was fight.
Well, and this is popping up in some places you would never imagine. You know, places like Oklahoma, Texas. I mean, the red conservative states. I mean, it is alarming. Coach, we're out of time. Always great to see you. I hope you make it home in time before the TSA shuts down.
Thank you, Tony.
Always good to see you. Coach Tommy Tuberville of Alabama. All right, this is a concern. Next, we're going to have two of the recipients of FRC Action's 100% Award, and one of them is Chip Roy. He was a part of the hearing in the House yesterday, so we're going to talk with him about that as well. Also, Congressman Babin of Texas joins us. So don't go away. More Washington Watch.
Jesus said in John 15, "These things I've spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy may be full." In 2024, in these divided and uncertain times, how can this be possible? By abiding in Him through His Word. At Family Research Council, we want to help you do that, which is the reason for the Stand on the Word Bible reading plan. In just 10 to 15 minutes each day, you will have read the entire Bible in just 2 years. But more importantly, you will be abiding in Him daily. Find our Bible reading plan at frc.org/Bible. And join Tony Perkins each weekday for a 10-minute devotional inspired by the daily reading and designed to encourage you on this journey through the Bible. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And remember, the grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever.
The loss of a child through abortion, miscarriage, or stillbirth affects the emotional health of families. Feelings of anger, sadness, and regret can be overwhelming. There is hope and healing in the aftermath of a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline at 866-482-LIFE to talk with someone who has been where you are and healed to help others. Your call is confidential. 866-482-LIFE.
Today's issues, man on the street interview of one of the Mamdani voters, cut 16.
What's your favorite example of socialism that's worked?
Man, you put me on the spot. I'm gonna have to go Cuba.
Better rethink that choice.
Now, that clip shows that there are people who have just as much of a right to vote as people who know what they're talking about.
Today's issues, weekday mornings at 11 Eastern, 10 Central on American Family Radio.
For your walk with Jesus, I'm David Wolin with Haven Today, inviting you to anchor your day in God's Word. It's amazing how much has changed in just the last 50 years. And yet, in many ways, nothing has changed at all. The problems that plagued centuries past are still with us, even if the face of them looks a little different. Financial problems, illness, troubled relationships, depression, fear, anxiety, stress. No one is exempt. Not the super rich or the poorest of the poor. The fallenness of our world brings every person at some point to a crossroads. And Jesus speaks into that moment with an invitation. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me. There's a reason we call it the gospel. It's good news. Get more encouragement daily with Anchor Devotional. Visit getanchor.com.
Washington Watch. I'm Tony Perkins, your host. Thanks so much for tuning in and making us part of your day. The website, TonyPerkins.com. Lots of resources there for you. Also, you can access all of that through the Stand Firm app. Go to the App Store and get the Stand Firm app. You'll have access to Washington Watch, the Washington Stand, our news and commentary from a biblical perspective, and our daily devotional, Stand on the Word. All of that is found on the Stand Firm app. All right, speaking of the Word, our word for today comes from Exodus chapter 14. The children of Israel, on their way out of Egypt, faced their first crisis. The Red Sea before them and the Egyptian army behind them. And guess what? Their enthusiasm melts into despair. Verse 11, then they said to Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us to bring us up out of Egypt? And Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And the Lord said to Moses, why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward. How do we live for God in the power of God so that we don't desire to go back to the bondage of the past? Well, we look to God in faith to overcome our fear of the obstacles and challenges that we face, and then we act. To find out more about our journey through the Bible, text Bible to 67742. That's Bible to 67742. Well, early this morning, dozens of senators and members of Congress were in the Family Center of the Family Research Council right here in Washington, D.C. And they were here to be recognized for a 100% faith, family, and freedom voting record. In fact, 263 members voted 100% with FRC and with your family this past year. Frankly, it was a very encouraging event to see that many members of Congress who are standing up for the family and boldly defending Christian faith. And one of those members of the House is Congressman Dr. Babin of Texas, who is co-chairman of the Congressional Border Security Caucus and chairman of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. And he joins us now. Dr. Babin, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Always great to be with you, Tony, and Family Research Council.
Well,
Thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me congratulate you on being recognized today with FRC Action's annual award for members of Congress who scored a perfect 100% for votes cast on the scorecard in 2025. I tell you what, we really appreciate your stand for faith, family, and freedom.
Well, this is why I'm up here. I mean, it went 100% up here to defend faith, family, and freedom. And I've also told many people in the past, Tony, that I serve for 17 reasons. And those are my 17 grandchildren that I want to have a future in a country of faith, family, and freedom. And we want to maintain that.
It doesn't happen on its own. I mean, you have to work for that. You have to fight for that. And, you know, I have seen, and you've been around a while. I don't know if you've been here as long as I have, but I've been here a while. I'm encouraged. You know, a lot of people are discouraged by what they see in the news, and I know there's a lot of bad stuff out there, but I'm telling you what, more and more men and women of faith are being called by God to run for public office, get elected, and many of them are coming here to Congress.
There's no question about it. I mean, we have some great members, and you know, I have people saying, you know, the Congress is miserable. It doesn't do its job. It doesn't do this. You go up there and you do this, that, and the other, and nothing gets better. And I say, well, mainly because we've just got to have more committed Christians who are willing to stand up for faith, family, and freedom, and stand up for the Constitution and for that great book, our scripture, and that is the Holy Bible. And if we do that, I think if we can get that majority, and I think we've got it now. Sometimes they don't always stick together, as you know. But when we do, we get things done, and I just it makes you feel sleep a lot better at night, knowing that we have the trifecta now of President Trump in the White House, and we have a majority in the House and the Senate.
Well, the mess that our country is in didn't happen overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. I talk to the speaker often, and he's got one of the toughest jobs, I think, in the world, trying to get the Republicans to keep together. I want to talk a little bit about the encouragement from the spiritual standpoint. Last week, you participated in an event, which I think is one of my favorite events, the National Gathering for Prayer and Repentance, where literally dozens of members of Congress come and they pray. And these are not, scripted prayers. These are heartfelt prayers. You've been a part of that. Every year we've had that. What does that mean to you?
Well, it's just an enormous honor to be able to do it. I remember the first time, Tony, that we had it a few years ago. And, we had been in despair after several years of Joe Biden and the 8 years of Barack Obama. And then all of a sudden we have open borders. Our police departments are being underfunded. We've got people of faith are being arrested for just kneeling on the sidewalk praying in front of an abortion clinic, and weaponization of our federal agencies. And it really is. It sends you into a kind of just a funk of despair, thinking that your great country based on God, the Judeo-Christian foundation that we have, is heading to ruination. And then so even before Joe Biden left office, we were beginning to have these prayer and repentance meetings at the Bible Museum, and it just felt so comforting. We knew God's presence was there. You're there with your own kind, with people really of the Judeo-Christian faith that are there with your own your colleagues, your senators, your House members, and getting on our knees and praying to a Holy Father that we know wants to bless us and forgive us, and it's just so comforting. And now, we prayed, and all of a sudden we've got a Republican in the White House who is doing a tremendous job for people of faith. He is defending faith all around the world and doing a great job. And then we have the majority in the Senate, and as you said, we've got a majority, but a very thin one in the House where I serve. And I can just say this, and on that thin majority where we can only afford to lose one, maybe two seats, we can't afford to have anybody get sick.
Right.
It's horrible, but that little thin majority is really separating us from going back to the Biden and Obama years. I mean, it's the only thing between us: freedom, faith, and communism and Marxism.
It is the thin red line. It's a thin red line.
That's right.
Between us and that Marxist ideology that was taking root in our government. Dr. Brian Babin, always great to see you, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony. God bless you. Keep up the good work.
All right, Dr. Babin was one, as I said, of 263 members of Congress that received the 100% award. And you can actually find out if your congressman was among them. You can go to TonyPerkins.com. There in the program, the episode resources for today, you can actually get a link that will take you to that vote scorecard, and you can see where they lined up on the issues. And if your member was 100%, I would encourage you to reach out to them, send a note to their office and thank them for standing for faith, family, and freedom. Even if they didn't, well, ask them why they didn't. Again, you can find that at TonyPerkins.com. All right, joining me now is another 100% award recipient, Congressman Chip Roy of Texas. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee, the Rules Committee, and the Budget Committee. He is the representative for the 21st Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Roy, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be on with you, Tony. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, and congratulations on receiving the 100% award from FRC Action.
Yeah, honored as always. Thanks for keeping score and holding our feet to the fire. And for some of us, it might be a little bit easier than others, but really honored.
Yeah, for some it's the feet, others just patting them on the back. All right, let me ask you. Today I talked about this earlier in the program. Explosive hearing in the Judiciary Committee. Attorney General Pam Bondi. I mean, it kind of looked like a circus.
Yeah, there was a lot of barbs being thrown around by Democrats directed at the Attorney General. In fact, I missed a part of it because I was down on the floor running the rule for the Save America Act. But in the committee, we had a lot of spirited back and forth. But look, I focused my attention when I talked to her about the extent to which, one, the Save America Act is needed by virtue of the questions I asked her, which she validated, that they have been indicting and going after individuals who have been engaged in election fraud and voter fraud. And by the way, I asked her a simple question. When you do that, does that unring the bell on their vote? And the answer is no. That's why you need something that's prophylactic like the Save America Act. But in addition, we talked about their office where they deal with all of the judges, the immigration judges on the asylum claims, how the backlog is going down for President Trump because of his policies, how that's helping them be able to carry out justice more effectively. And then I pressed her a little bit on Epstein and making sure that we're protecting victims while seeking truth, but reminding people that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were both indicted by the first Trump administration. So we had a good back and forth, and hopefully people are seeing that we're going after criminals and doing the work that they sent us there to do.
Well, it was interesting hearing, and I'll leave it at that because I want to go back to the Save America Act. As you said, you were down on the floor. I was watching it actually on C-SPAN, watching you on the floor regarding the rule. Let's talk about this because I think this is extremely important because you have states that are not protecting the vote, the sanctity of the vote, and that's actually, let's say, you got a blue state like California that doesn't really care, or they actually want, they want bad things to happen. I'll leave it at that. But that's robbing people in Texas and other states. So it reaches beyond the border of that state that's not securing the ballot.
Yeah, it does, and I'll take it one step further because you and I are both federalists, right? Neither one of us are reflexively wanting to federalize law. But in this case, there's a direct constitutional underpinning, right? Congress is given the ability to set the rules and standards for their own elections and federal elections alongside the states. But also we have purview over immigration and border security, right? It's in the Constitution. But importantly, there are some states that want to do this and are being prohibited by federal judges from actually making sure that their voter rolls are checked against the federal database to ensure citizenship. Arizona, for example, has two sets of data, two systems, one for their state and local elections, one for federal. We fixed that. This, I think, is actually a pro-states, pro-limited government position by just setting a baseline of the standard. Yes, we require it at a federal level for federal elections. But we make all the data available. We let states set a lot of the rules, require voter ID, require that you check citizenship. It's not really complex.
But we do that now from a standpoint of the federal government sets the standard in some ways for federal elections. We determine when they're going to be. And so this is not like earth-shattering that we're saying, all right, we've got this problem in our election system, and therefore, you got to have an ID to make sure you vote, so that we're ensuring that it's only American citizens who are voting in federal elections.
No, that's exactly right. And my Democratic colleagues have been trying to spin people up, making wild-eyed claims that women aren't going to be able to vote because they make a name change when they get married, or that somehow our men and women in uniform aren't going to be able to vote. All of these things are false. The original version of the SAVE Act had protections, but we actually added some additional safeguards in this version just to clarify and make sure that if a woman was married and her names didn't align, she could sign an affidavit. We've taken care of every possible option here. We're empowering states to do it. Again, this polls off the charts, Tony. You know this. Yeah. Republicans, it's 90%. Democrats, it's 71%. Among Hispanics, blacks, whites, all over 70% support. Overwhelming support across the country for voter ID and to ensure that only citizens vote.